A junkie walking through the twilight. I'm on my way home. I left 3 days ago, but no one seems to know I'm gone. Home is where the hatred is. Home is filled with pain, and it might not be such a bad idea if I never went home again. Stand as far away from me as you can and ask me why. Hang on to your rosary beads, close your eyes to watch me die. You keep saying, kick it, quit it, kick it, quit it.
All right. It's 2016. We up in this piece, as they say. Ready to kick this new year off. Hopefully everybody made it through safely. This is the first show of the year, and keeping with our format, as everyone knows, Tuesdays is going to be kind of like a in the news format, or we'll be breaking stories as they break. And Thursdays will be reserved for our actual in-depth show. Today's show is called Malcolm and Martin. Where did it go wrong? And we have respect for both of those brothers. Many of us weren't around. I know I was born a month or so after Malcolm was assassinated, and I was about 3 years old when Martin Luther King was assassinated. But both these brothers played a role in my life, and two men that I've always looked up to, no matter how the difference is, and having the opportunity to study and learn about both has given me a lot of insight that I hope to share tonight with you. But first, as always, we advertise the businesses. We've got a We'll start off with, sorry about that, Rochelle Millsap. She is the RE/MAX agent for all your real estate needs. Give her a call. I'm sure if you have commercial needs, she can also take care of those for you. Her number's on the screen. You probably can reach her on the cell phone more than the office phone, 773-716-5541. New business called Something Sweet by Miss Terry. Me and my wife had an event and had gotten a cake from her, or someone dropped the cake off. It was delicious. Another home business. She's trying to do her thing as a bakery. That number is 708-781-5220. King's Cubby Daycare, 8825 South Colfax in Chicago, Illinois. Accepting kids from ages of 6 weeks to 12 years old. Phone number is 773-364-0497. Kevin Character King, spoken word artist. That CD's still out there on iTunes and CD Baby, and the book's on Amazon. The book's called The Characters Book of Poetry. Nice pieces. I'm sure he's writing more new stuff, and he'll be able to bless us more. Here's a quick sample.
I see new faces in old places. Places I grew up called home. And these faces in old places are faces not of my skin tone. Yet they come from various places, do these faces, to purchase themselves new spaces in these vacant places, which have now been renovated, upgraded, upscaled, and updated.
Ready to implode on impact, and there are many in my family like me, better than me, all is deadly.
Check that brother out. I, of course, am the owner-operator of RPC Computing, located in Lansing. 773-416-2955. RPC is your PC. Repairs, upgrades, consultations. Also, many people have been commenting on some of the mixes and music that we play on the show, which a lot of it is actually mixes that I do. On Friday nights, we do mixes from 8 to 11 p.m. On our radio station. You can get the app from the Apple Store or the Play Store. Just download, listen to my radio app. When you open it up, you can search for the show, all one word, and you can get that app on your phone. You can carry us around, or you can go to the internet, and you can go to the show.listentomyradio.com, and you will see the image that you see on the screen, and you can listen to it there. Okay, excuse me, let me turn my phone off real quick here. No interruptions, right? So here we are. It's 2016, and there's been a lot on TV. We've been reaching back and saying how much progress have we really made in America as black folks, when so much is still going on the same way that it was going on so long ago. Same brutality, same police departments. Have we really made progress? It got me to think about Malcolm and Martin and how their lives started off as young men in their 20s and coming from two different types of paths. Malcolm was into drugs and all types of stuff. Martin was a Baptist minister, son of a Baptist minister, and was part of his father's church congregation. He was kind of thrust into the civil rights movement as a young man. And once he saw the plight of black America and the things that were taking place in the 50s, a lot of times they say what years was the civil rights, and I've always accepted from 1955 to 1975 is considered the civil rights time frame. In 55 was the year that Emmett Till was killed. It was the year that Rosa Parks and the Montgomery bus situation took place. There were lots of other events going on during this time, and as I said, Malcolm Martin was kind of thrust into it. Malcolm being part of the Nation of Islam, they did not really participate in the civil rights movement because they did not believe the agenda of the civil rights movement to integrate into the society of the oppressor as the nation would state. And so this was Malcolm's belief also, which prompted the show of, was integration the best solution for us as a people, or are we now getting to that place and point where we're realizing maybe there was some merit to what Malcolm was saying? It's funny that these guys could never get together, because even though they were saying it in different ways, they were actually going toward the same goal. Especially once Malcolm broke from the nation, he actually sought the opportunity to meet and embrace with the King camp. King unfortunately was not present. I think he was in jail at the time, and he met with Coretta Scott and a lot of other leaders, and I'm going to share some video and things with you all on that level. I think the split was a lot of people like Malcolm because he represented our manhood and he said exactly what we wanted to say. And a lot of people like Martin because he was a pastor, and you know how we are about our church. And he seemed to have the right mindset of a lot of Southern people mostly. Even though he traveled all around, most of Martin's support was in the South. When he did come to Chicago, he left saying that this was the most segregated and racist city he had ever visited. My pastor, Bishop Arthur M. Brazier, was the only one who took Martin in and joined him in his struggle. I'm going to share 2 video clips with you guys, and then we're going to jump back in from there. Hopefully these play correctly because there was a problem with the editing. Like I say, as always, editing this I'm doing editing, so it's something new here. I'm going to start off with the Malcolm piece.
Who taught you to hate the color of your skin? Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to? So much so that you don't want to be around each other. No, before you come asking Mr. Muhammad, does he teach hate? You should ask yourself, who taught you to hate being what God gave you?
Most of us blacks, or Negroes as he called us, really thought we were free without being aware that in our subconscious, all those chains we thought had been struck off were still there. And there were many ways where what really motivated us was our desire to be loved by the white man. Malcolm meant to lance that sense of inferiority. He knew it would be painful. He knew that people could kill you because of it, but he dared to take that risk.
He was saying something over and above that of any other leader of that day. While the other leaders were begging for entry into the house of their oppressor, he was telling you to build your own house.
He expelled fear for African Americans. He says, I will speak out loud what we've been thinking. And he said, you'll see, people will hear it and they will not do anything to us necessarily, okay? But I will now speak it for the masses of people. When he said it in a very strong fashion, in this very manly fashion, in this fashion that says, I am not afraid to say what you've been thinking all these years, that's why we loved him. He said it out loud, not behind closed doors. He took on America for us.
As Muslims, we believe that separation is the best way and the only sensible way, not integration. And but on the other hand, when we see our people being brutalized by white bigots, white racists, we think that they are foolish to allow themselves to be beaten and brutalized and do nothing whatsoever to protect themselves. If a dog is biting a black man, the black man should kill the dog. Whether the dog is a police dog, a hound dog, or any kind of dog. If a dog is fixed on a black man, when that black man is doing nothing but trying to take advantage of what the government says is supposed to be his, then that black man should kill that dog or any two-legged dog who fixed the dog on it.
When Malcolm talks, or one of the Muslim ministers talk, they articulate for all the Negro people who hear them, who listen to them, they articulate their suffering. The suffering which has been in this country so long denied. That's Malcolm's great authority over any of his audiences. He corroborates their reality.
And he comes into this very room, and he sits there, and we talk to him. He says, first of all, that he had arrived early, but because he was ahead of time, he'd driven around the block a couple of times. He wanted to be exactly on time, and he was. We sat and listened. We didn't have any questions. We knew what the anguish was. We knew what was happening. And he just seemed to need a friendly ear. So we let him talk. And he talked about his time in prison. He talked about the times when he first heard of Elijah Muhammad and the change it made in his life. He expressed that deep hurt within him that his father had rejected him. And as he sat there, it was evident that if Elijah Muhammad had just done that, at that moment, whatever the differences were between them, Malcolm would have been off and running.
Those clips are from a documentary called Make It Plain. Good documentary. You can see the whole documentary on YouTube. Hopefully you all are finding these videos and things that we share, and then allowing them to be a part of your library. In the clips, there were some things being said that were really interesting from a standpoint of where Malcolm was coming from. Like we said earlier, Malcolm was a street hood con artist, working on boxcars and all other types of things to make a living. Anyway, he had to make a living. He was going to make a living. But his parents happened to be Garveyites. They followed the teachings of Marcus Garvey, and which was kind of still along the lines of the nation, but before the nation. And so some things were instilled in him at a very young age. His father believed in independence and not depending on white society either to make a living. So sometimes even when you're talking to your kids and you think that things, you're not breeding stuff into them, it's being put in there to be risen out at a later time. Malcolm came from that standpoint of, are we looking for approval and acceptance into the white race, into the society as it was? And it was kind of foolish to him in his original mindset, because he said, this is your oppressor. Why are you trying to embrace and be a part of what he's doing? Why not build our own, have our own, create our own, for our own? One of the people that was in the clip is James Baldwin, and if you don't know about James Baldwin, you should go pick up his books or view his documentaries online. He had a lot of insight. He knew both Martin and Malcolm and had a lot of insight. But as he said, the great thing about Malcolm is he collaborated everybody's reality. The things that were actually going on and happening, he brought them to life and put them out there, and wasn't afraid to say what needed to be said to who needed to be said. and that was whether that was black or white. This was his charisma and what drew people to him, that the magnetism of Malcolm. There was also Ossie Davis was in this clip, and great actor. I'm sure you've all seen Ossie Davis in a lot of Spike Lee movies, but him and Ruby Dee were doing movies way before then, even before Spike was born. So go back and look at them, but they could tell there was a meeting where when Malcolm left the nation, and I think he was trying to find himself. He had started his own organization called the Muslim Mosque Incorporated, and he wanted to be more along the lines of civil rights. Now, when he was in the nation, like I say, they didn't get into the civil rights thing because they weren't interested in integration. But he was, Malcolm made his trip to Mecca, and he came back with a new philosophy, and he wanted to work with the civil rights movement to uplift his people. And then we all know he was assassinated because of the rift inside the nation. No one knows the exact story. I've always believed that it was people inside the nation that ordered this, and maybe with the help of some operatives made this happen, and that's just the sad reality of it. So we went through the Malcolm piece, and now I want to share the piece with you from Martin to show you how Martin kind of transitioned from his original position to more of a position of where Malcolm was at. Now with the separation, he still wanted to integrate, but he wasn't as disillusioned anymore about the possibilities of integrating into a society, and he often questioned had he led black people down the wrong path. I'm just going to share that video with you now.
I would not say that the civil rights movement is dead. It's simply that we are moving to a new phase of the movement. For well now 12 years, we struggled to end legal segregation and all of the humiliation surrounding legal segregation. So it was a struggle for decency. It was a struggle to get rid of extremist behavior toward Negroes. Now we are in a new phase, and that is a phase where we are seeking genuine equality, where we are dealing with hard economic and social issues. And it means that the job is much more difficult. It's much easier to integrate a lunch counter than it is to guarantee an annual income.
I must confess that that dream that I had that day has at many points turned into a nightmare. Now, I'm not one to lose hope. I keep on hoping. I still have faith in the future. But I've had to analyze many things over the last few years, and I would say over the last few months. I've gone through a lot of soul-searching and agonizing moments, and I've come to see that we have many more difficult days ahead, and some of the old optimism was a little superficial, and now it must be tempered with a solid realism. And I think the realistic fact is that we still have a long, long way to go, and that we are involved in a war on Asian soil, which, if not checked and stopped, can poison the very soul of our nation.
At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farms. Not only that,
Today, many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. And this is what we are faced with, and this is the reality. Now, when we come to Washington in this campaign, we are coming to get. As I said to the group last night, nobody else can do this for us. No document can do this for us. No Lincolnian Emancipation Proclamation can do this for us. No Kennysonian or Johnsonian Civil Rights Bill can do this for us. If the Negro is to be free, he must move down into the inner resources of his own soul and sign with a pen and ink of self-assertive manhood his own Emancipation Proclamation.
I would not say.
Many people probably hadn't seen a lot of those clips of Martin when he spoke about his dream had become a nightmare. That's kind of how it is when you start coming to the knowledge of what you're dealing with. He starts seeing the ingenuous character of America and its politics. He saw how America operated and gave away land and purchased machinery and helped these farmers and all other types with money that could have been earmarked for us, with land that could have been earmarked for us. He started saying, oh, this is the game. He started seeing the hypocrisy of democracy, as Malcolm would say. He started realizing more that we can't depend on America to be fair. And he started leaning more toward a independent type of thinking also, of how we should behave and build in society ourselves. And Martin had lost a lot of support toward the end. Even the government agencies that had supported him were turning their back because they saw him, one, talking about the Vietnam War, and two, losing a lot of headway to the militant blacks of the day, the Black Panther Party and other organizations that were not buying what Martin was putting down, and he had no control over that. Most of his support was in the South and not in the North and West. Harry Belafonte has a book, and Tavis Smiley has a book, and I think Tavis Smiley's book is called The Killing of a King. Don't quote me on that, I could be wrong. And Harry Belafonte's is a memoir that he talks about him and his relationship with Martin. I think there's also a book called The Burning House, where Martin talks about his fear is that he's led his people into a burning house. Malcolm also spoke about a burning house as far as America symbolizing the house, and if they didn't act right, then the house should burn down. So as we tie this together, we had two men, both young men. Both of them died at the age of 39. Malcolm was older than King by a few years. But as you watch those videos, your mind should have saw how the mindsets were starting to bend toward one another. Malcolm was bending more toward the civil rights thinking. Martin was bending more toward the independent thinking of not being dependent on white society to be fair, to be righteous. Something people nowadays don't want to embrace, and we want to have this big melting pot, but it's hard when you're in society and constantly the treatment is unfair on so many levels. It's unfair on the educational level, the judicial level, the economic level, the just any level you can think of. It seems to be horrible, and it's not horrible for everybody because a lot of people are enjoying the fruits as long as you keep your head down and do what you say you're supposed to do and follow the system. Your life can be wonderful. Look right here at the tip of my toe. Don't hold your head up too high. That's a problem in America. It's ridiculous. And if you haven't experienced it, maybe you haven't lived long enough, but you'll get your chance to experience the hypocrisy of democracy. And like I always say, I think we've probably gone so far into the integration part now that there's no pulling back. So as we see all these protests and things blowing up and people showing their dissatisfaction, the name of the song that was playing at the beginning of the show is by Gil Scott-Heron, and the name of the song is "Home is Where the Hatred Is." So I think it was done kind of like a wartime piece, even though everybody was going to Vietnam, getting drafted or whatever, and then you came back home and still found the same hatred that you left. Like it was going to be different because you went over here and shot some people that had nothing to do with you in the first place. As Muhammad Ali saying, those aren't my oppressors. My oppressors was right here in America. Again, the hypocrisy of democracy. Yeah, it's a great country. We say it's a great country because we've never lived anywhere else or seen anything else. All we know is what the outsiders tell us and what we see on TV. And usually a lot of places we visit are third world countries or things like that for one reason or another. But back on topic. This has to be the biggest catastrophe in Black America. That two of the greatest forces that we had ever known, not saying anything about anyone else, there were many people that were part of the struggle, but these were the biggest two figureheads, cut down at the age of 39, both in the prime of their lives. Do you ever sit and imagine, wow, what would it be like if both these guys had lived? The world would probably be a totally different place. So what happened to the leadership? Did the leadership sell out after Malcolm and Martin were gone? Did they accept those jobs in the Trojan horse? Were they deceived? Were they hoodwinked? Did we become complacent and buy into the American dream? Like things had changed so much. I remember I had to be about 7 years old, and I got to participate in the Black History Month play, and I got the letter K. This is 1972, and I got to do the K is for King speech. And to look out into the audience, a 7-year-old talking to at least 100 or so people, it moved something in me, and it made me know that this man was something special. And I was only 7 years old, so how much could I have possibly known about King other than seeing him on some flags at some funerals? But that day, that did something to me. I wouldn't discover Malcolm to a few years later, and then I developed that little militant side, and of course I got into trouble because being a militant will always get you into trouble. But there's a saying that nothing changes without stirring up a little trouble, because otherwise it's going to stay the same, nothing's going to change, and it's going to be the status quo. Malcolm used to say, hey, you guys are talking to these people like sweethearts and saying how you want to be a part of it, and they're laughing in your face and going on about their business, doing what they want to do. So the society we have now is a direct migration of what we had then. But how far has it gone? If people are still getting shot down in the street, you're not getting any justice, or the justice that they're giving you is the dog and pony show justice. How far have we really gone? I can tell you now, since Obama been in office, I've been catching hell at work like you wouldn't believe. Sometimes you just have to laugh to keep from throwing up. It's not just me. There's plenty of other people. And whether you admit it or not, you wish there was something different you could do. Something you could support. That's what 2016 is going to be about for me. Finding something different. Do we want to continue to fight these losing battles and then get that revelation like Martin got that revelation? When your dreams become nightmares and you realize you got to do something different. We got to do something different, people. And that's the $20 million question that we need to find the answer to this year. I'm glad to see you all back checking out the show. Shoot me an email at the show 1965@yahoo.com if you got show ideas or you got a business that you want to promote. That's what we're about in 2016. Self-growth, self-employment, direction, focus on a positive level. We're not here to down any other people, down white people, down Mexican, Asians. No, we're not here to down anybody. We're up here to uplift ourselves. And that's something we can agree that Martin and Malcolm were on. So let's be Malcolm. Let's be Martin. Love, peace. So we out of here.
Home is where I live inside my white powder. never went